What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, and we're back for the first time in quite a while with some Talk Talk. Thank you to Stuart, who has been sponsoring the Talk Talk Deep Dive, and I'm happy to have another album to go through, and that is Laughingstock 1991. So yes, moving into the 90s, of course, musical trends and stylings were evolving, though the early 90s is not terribly far away from the late 80s, so I don't quite know how much difference to expect here, and I would argue that already what I've heard from Talk Talk has featured an evolution toward a more atmospheric, even ambient style of synth pop. Indeed, I don't even know if synth pop is the right phrase. I feel like they've moved more toward art pop and a style of music that is off the beaten path and almost cinematic in its qualities, so yes, I wouldn't be surprised if we get more of that here. In any case, the first track is like Myrrhman, which like at first it made me think of myrrh, which made me think of, scriptural narratives, but I didn't know if there's a specific reference here, so I don't normally do this, but I was very curious, so I poked around online, and what I found, and of course there's no necessary reason this should be fully accurate, but what I saw on a website that I sometimes go to when trying to get a sense for, what year an album came from and so on, is that apparently this is a reference to a track Myrrhman, which was on their debut album, which I don't think I went through, which is The Party's Over. And so Myrrhman, I feel like that may very well be the case, but as far as I know, I never reacted to that earlier tune, so if there is some lyrical connection, I won't be aware of it, or at least I won't be able to make specific connections. So either way, I'm intrigued by the title. Let's see what it is in practice. This is Talk Talk. The track is Myrrhman, and it's the first tune from their 1991 album, Laughingstock.
My chair at the back room door. Help me up, and Tread dependence beneath my feet. Step right up, sometimes
Wow. So yes, very much continuing the ambient atmosphere, experimental, that might not even be the right word, like alternate dimension style of art pop that I've heard on the last at least album, if not even more than that. And definitely, again, vocals from Hollis that they're emotional, they're melodic, and yet in some cases they're almost whispered, or they're articulated in a way where it's like the feeling comes across more clearly than the words themselves. So yeah, in terms of the lyrics, I don't quite know what's happening here. I will say the whole feeling of the piece is like this dystopian, dissonant jazz at the end of the world type of feel. So yeah, again, if there's a direct connection to their earlier tune Myrrhman, which I'm not saying there is, I just saw a reference to that online. I don't know exactly what it is. If there's a reference to like a religious or scriptural theme, like my brain first went to when I saw the title, I didn't quite pick up on that. But yeah, it feels sad, it feels like off kilter, because again, some of the sonics were dissonant, they feel like minor key or unsettled, and yet at the same time there was like this warm richness to some of the instrumental parts, so it didn't feel all like post-apocalyptic destroyed, but certainly there was a balance between that, like, again, end of the world type of feel and an emotional capacity still. So yes, once again, Hollis has a great voice, and although it feels like he's not giving us like a big vocal performance, it's sort of drawn in and like introspective. As I said, I don't quite know what to make of what he's singing, but his singing is beautiful, and it's another one which feels more like an art piece than like a catchy song that you would hear on the radio. So yeah, just given this opening tune, it feels like they're just continuing into that direction, like off the beaten path and into this like atmospheric, almost cinematic type of sound. So yeah, a very interesting opener. I look forward to hearing Stuart or anyone else who has comments about the themes or the lyrics as they are understood. In any case, I did notice that this album doesn't have that many tunes. I want to say like 6 or 7. Let me just check to see if that is in fact the case. Yeah, 6 tunes. So certainly an album that is by number short on songs. Though I will say the one we just heard is like 5.5 minutes. So, that's not unheard of for a pop song, but certainly on the longer end of that, I would say. In any case, let me know what you think. And Luca, who I know she was like shaking the chair through much of the video, so yeah, she is doing her own thing, and I don't interrupt that. But if that did in any way distract from the ambience of the song, I do apologize. In any case, let me know what you think, and I will see you for the next one. Peace.